Circular structures, or stone circles as we call them, scattered through South Africa, Zimbabwe, Botswana, Mozambique, mostly in the eastern part of South Africa. Actually, they right across South Africa, but they concentrated in the east and to the north, and then right into Zimbabwe, and Zimbabwe is full of them. They go across the Zambezi River into Zambia, they go into Mozambique and into Botswana, and there, from my calculation, more than 10 million of these structures. And then discovering that these stone circles are not dwellings, they're energy generating devices. Every stone circle is a cymatic pattern, is a representation of the sound frequency coming out of the earth at that point. And the stone walls that have been placed on the cymatic pattern amplify the energy, the sound frequency, and turn it into an electromagnetic field. And this is why we have very strong electromagnetic activity, very powerful sound frequencies coming out of these stone walls, and they're all connected together by these channels that look like wires that connect them together. So we're dealing with a huge energy generating grid, a network of stone circles that give us unimaginable amount of energy. This is not a theory. This is scientific fact. It's been measured, it's been documented. Unfortunately, our modern archaeology in South Africa is way behind time. They don't approach it scientifically at all. They keep claiming that these stone circles were dwellings for certain tribes, and they just unfortunately, they're lying and deceiving the people. Look, many of the stone circles were used for dwellings, but much later civilizations. So yes, you'll find evidence of people using them as dwellings and changing them and converting them. But they were not the first original builders. These people found them and used them, like we do. You know, civilizations build on top of each other, and we reuse what we find from ancient civilizations. And that's exactly what happened here. The original structures have no doors and no entrances. They are completely closed in and connected to each other. They are energy generating devices. Every stone circle that we measured very powerful sound frequencies in gigahertz, from 11.5 gigahertz up to over 375 gigahertz, coming out of the walls of the stone circles and out of Adam's calendar. This is unimaginable amounts of sound energy. The volume or the level of the sound frequencies goes around 30,000 decibels. 30,000 decibels is very powerful energy coming out of the stone circles. We're dealing with hypersound technology here. So we have a lot of information about this. And Adam's calendar seems to be the flagship among these millions of stone circles. And it resonates very, very powerfully. At Adam's calendar, we have an electromagnetic field that runs inside the imaginary circle. Now, there are no stone walls there. So this is the mysterious thing. How does this work? Because you literally take one step forward and the electromagnetic fields go crazy. And they run horizontally in the one area, and then between the two central stones, they run vertically into the sky. And every time we've gone back recently, the electromagnetic fields seem to be increasing. So something strange is going on there. And it's definitely active. It's alive and it's active, even in its very badly destroyed state.
Now, the question is, can we use this form of energy from these circular structures somehow?
The answer is yes. But for that we need engineers, electrical engineers, electronical engineers, geophysical engineers. We need tools and technology, and all that takes money. Now, obviously, we're not going to get the money for this from the mainstream, because the mainstream are the guys that control the electricity supply that enslaves humanity. So they're not going to help us with this, right? We're going to have to get the help ourselves somehow to reactivate this and share this energy with the world, and especially with the people in that area. We've got enough energy generated there to feed the whole world.
And so we are at the next topic, Ubuntu.
Yes, very simply, Ubuntu is an ancient African philosophy. It's an African word that refers to people living and working in a harmonious, united community. where people share for the benefit of everyone in the community, where money does not exist, where nobody needs anything because everything is shared. And it means that, often described as, I am who I am because of who we all are. So it's an inclusive ancient philosophy to provide abundance for the community. And in the modern world, I call this contributionism. So I often refer to as Ubuntu and contributionism in the same sentence, because this is the philosophy that we promote to get us out of the slavery system, out of the monetary and the economic enslavement that we've been trapped in, and creating a whole new system, not fighting or resisting the current system, just creating a new system for humanity that flows naturally out of what has been created for us as a slavery system. So creating communities of abundance by creating community projects, allowing people to participate in the community projects, and creating much more than what we just need for ourselves in the projects, from growing food, technology, healthcare, anything you can imagine. Creating much more than what we need, and then making that available to our neighboring communities. And by doing that, very quickly destroying the capitalist model. And it's not difficult to convince people that this is a good system, because every one of us resonates with us in our hearts. And this is an ancient philosophy. So people tap into their deep ancestry and the DNA, and it resonates in their hearts when they first come across the system. And they embrace it very, very quickly all over the world. If you just look at how this movement has grown to more than 200 countries around the world, we have Ubuntu parties being formed now in South Africa, the UK, Canada, USA, Australia, now in Germany, Austria coming, and it's exploding all over the world. We are focusing on communities. As soon as we implement the Ubuntu philosophy there, it'll spread like a wildfire, and it'll be the first domino to fall. We have a very simple plan of action, is we offer the people the following: a free electricity. So the moment we win, we implement our own electricity supply. It can either be a turbine in the river, it can be new exotic technology, anything to get us off the grid, off the central electricity grid. We provide our own electricity. That electricity is then distributed free and equally to everyone. We establish a number of community projects with that electricity device, and everybody in the town is requested to work for 3 hours a week in one of the community projects in return for the free electricity. And these community projects then create the abundance of bread, milk, wooden products, clothing, food, anything you can imagine, all the projects we decide to create for ourselves. In the beginning, while we're still trapped in the money-driven system, we take what we create, because we create more than we need, so that we can sell it or give it away. In the beginning, we're not going to give it away, we're going to sell it for very, very cheap outside of our town. And the reason we're going to sell it, and we can make it very cheap, because collectively we are producing all these things very cheaply, cheaper than any factory or any corporation. Because remember, if we have a town of 5,000 people and everybody contributes 3 hours a week, that's 15,000 hours a week. 15,000 hours of labor per week that we are doing things for our community. I mean, with that kind of labor force, we've turned our little town into a powerful labor force that can move mountains, literally. No corporation and no municipality can compete with you. So we can then make the produce and the services and everything we create available very cheaply to our neighboring towns. The moment we do that, we collapse their capitalist model. And they're going to have to follow what we're doing. They're not going to have to, they're going to want to follow what we're doing, right? In return for what we create, 3 hours a week for the free electricity, plus everything that we make, from the bread, milk, cheese, everything is free to the people that give their 3 hours a week. So in essence, we live for free in our own town by simply turning around the concept of competition and turning it into collaboration and cooperation. This is a transitional phase. It's so simple. You don't have to give up your job. You can still do what you're doing. You can still work in the bank if that's what you do. As long as you work for 3 hours a week in one of the community projects, you are entitled to the free electricity and the free food and everything else we create. The money that we bring from all these community projects into our community bank account or community trust fund, that money gets used to set up more community projects and create projects that create components for other community projects, because eventually we have to be completely self-sufficient for everything we need, from technology to engineering to food to wood, furniture, clothing, everything we can imagine. We keep setting up new community projects with all the money that keeps coming in every month. Hospitals, healing, curing disease, right? So the moment we win an election and we start getting money from government to distribute, to run our town, we use that money to set up the fundamental foundation community projects. So the money will come from government to actually set the community projects up. We will have our own electricity supply, and then we just ask the people to work for 3 hours a week in one of these community projects. And from there, that foundation, we keep growing and building more and more projects. How do we engage with other factories and projects and activities in our town? This is where you see the beautiful, inclusive character of this system, where we can invite people by saying, well, we have a wooden factory in our town, but by creating community projects, we become a threat to the wooden factory that makes doors and windows. So what we do is we invite every factory, every business to become part of the community projects. In return, they get free electricity, free labor from the people that work in the projects, free wood from our wood factory, free glue from our science laboratory, and all the components to make their doors and windows. And in return, they retain 1/3 of the profits that we make from that factory. And in the interim, while we still live in a money-driven society, this individual will be making a lot more money than he is right now. Where he has to pay labor, pay for the costs of the.
What about taxes and rent and things like this?
Well, we can turn our town into a non-profit company. You see, so we use the system to beat the system. So all the profit and all the money we make in our town get distributed to the people and gets used to keep upgrading and improving the community projects, improving the company, so you never pay taxes. Because it's like companies do it. They keep using the money they make to grow the company and improve and buy things for the company. So you end up never paying taxes. So we use the system to beat the system. This is what we're planning in 2016 election. We're running into 12 smallest municipalities in South Africa. We believe we can reach all the people in those municipalities. Hopefully we can win at least one. The moment we win, we can implement this with all the community projects. So we can implement this philosophy, and that will be the trigger point and the first domino to fall, to inspire, to motivate, and give all the other countries the courage that they can do the same. And because the world is now a global village, and we have people all over the world that support the Ubuntu philosophy, there are Ubuntu members and Facebooks all over the world, the best is to join us on the Ubuntu Party website. So go to ubuntuparty.org.za. That's the main Ubuntu Party website. Register on there, go to join us, and put in your name and details in there so you get onto the database for the newsletters. And if you want to participate in the political activity in your country, then fill in the second form. That's a form for coordinators or representatives, so that we can start communicating with you, with the people in your country that want to set up the political movement and start driving it from that perspective.